St. Charles Borromeo was the man for the hour. He understood souls. He understood the ministry of souls. He understood the handling of one's own soul and its protection. There are many gems that he gave his own clergy, but two of them we can take with us on this his feast day. One is preparation, preparatio proxima, the immediate preparation for receiving grace, and the other is its maintenance, its protection when received. The remote preparation for encounter is the state of grace, that one is always awake unto God. But the immediate preparation for an encounter with the King of Kings is that one gets into his mode and therefore sheds any other. In the monastic life, it is protected by a whole structure. A bell, the big bell, often preceded by an inner bell, an electric one. That depends on the local monastery. At Sant'Antimo we just had the big bell, and one was invited to be obedient unto the voice of the beloved. Vox Delecti was written on one of the bells in France, and it was therefore supernatural that one obeyed the will of God expressed by a bell, immediately, sine mora, without delay. And so one went towards. St. Benedict invites that should be done without rush or hurry, without precipitation, in such a way that there is a calm mode maintained in all the movements of the brethren. And so one comes calmly and not out of breath in time for what is an immediate preparation according to the situation of the local monastery, either in choir, on one's knees waiting for the brethren to arrive and for the abbot's signal, or in the place of statio, coming out then together in procession. Either way, the end product was the same, that one left other things behind, mentally and physically, and came calmly. And then one is well able to engage with the world of the angels without having the other clutter in one's mind and even in one's body by being out of breath beforehand. Here we have this instruction given by St. Charles to his own priests, and it's something we can take with us. Such a man, he says, complains that as soon as he comes to choir to sing the divine office or starts to get ready for Mass, immediately 1,000 distractions invade his mind, enticing it away from God. But the question is, how had he been behaving in the sacristy before going into choir or beginning Mass? Did he make any real effort to compose his thoughts? What means did he choose and put into practice to fix his attention? Some years ago, I was asked to celebrate a Latin Mass on a first Friday evening in a parish somewhere in Dublin, and I noticed a laminated notice for the celebrant that the sacristy, and it was a quotation from a recent church document, I think it's the instruction to General Missal, that the sacristy was a place of recollection and silence in which one was preparing for the encounter with God. And that has always remained with me. It's wise not to raise one's voice in the sacristy. takes away from the atmosphere. It's the antechamber of glory. And people can hear it actually in the body of the church if one is talking in the sacristy. And so one gives the message to the altar boys that it's a place of interiority and not raucous laughter. Everything has its place. The sacristy is a place for God. One can't celebrate well if one has come just from a conversation. And then he goes on to indicate that the grace received must be protected. Shall I tell you how to go from strength to strength, he says. You have managed to, let us say, to be attentive for once in choir. How are you going to be more attentive next time and make your service more pleasing to God? I will tell you. The tiniest fire of divine love has been lit in you, has it? Then do not rush to make a parade of it. Do not take it out into the icy blast. Keep the furnace door shut on it, so that it does not die out. In other words, fly from avoidable distractions. Keep your mind fixed on God. Keep away from idle gossip. There are two things there. One is the principle of what is referred to as the secret of the king, secretum regis, that one does not wear one's heart on one's sleeve with regard to the intimacy with Jesus Christ. It's his secret. One is discreet about what one has felt in prayer. But the other is simply discretion with regard to talk, and how many graces are lost and evaporate completely, lost in their fruit, that is, by engagement with something very different from what one is engaged with at the altar, talking in church, and one has still the real presence in one. It's not pleasing to the Lord that we host at that point. Courtesy applies also to God. Keep the furnace door shut on it, so it does not die out. The author of The Imitation of Christ, it's thought to be St. Thomas à Kempis, has this teaching about what to do after receiving Holy Communion, to go into a secret place and to enjoy your God, he says. Now that's kind of important. There's intimacy there. It's that time that is the highest of the day. One needs to be with Jesus and give him his rights as king and friend. He needs our company when he's sharing his own with us. It's rude to talk to someone else when one has an important person in front of us. Here we have him inside us. And with regard to the discipline of coming back regularly and engaging with Jesus, it's something which one has to have, either in the priestly and monastic life, whatever it may be, or in the life of the Christian out there, with no bell, except the church bell perhaps, or maybe the Angelus to call. One has to have sacred spaces which are honoured, as one would, for instance, if one was courting someone in this world, one would have a date. Well, it has to be there with the Lord as well. Times which are special. And if they're not there, it shows what's important to us. I remember actually, years ago when I was a child, on a Christian camp in Dolgellau, there was a quiet time built in. One was invited to take the Bible and have a quiet time with Jesus. We were only 12 or 13. I forget what we were. Now, with regard to this, it takes me back to student days when, first time round in Rome, not yet ordained, but it was a very happy time. And one day I was approached by one of the brethren, one of the students, they were all Norbertines nearly, and he said, "Posso chiederti un favore? May I ask you a favour? Mi puoi suonare la campana? Can you ring the bell for me?" For some reason he couldn't do it, it was his duty, but he couldn't at that moment, so I had to take it on for a while, regularly that is to say. I remember being aware that that was actually an important duty, because the whole college obeyed that bell, and it called us to choir. We sang well. It was, I remember somebody saying actually, another Benedict, no, I think it's somebody in the English college, commenting on the beauty of our monastic office in that house. Somebody said also with regard to the Mass, it was probably the place in Rome that it was best celebrated. It was really well celebrated. Anyway, all that to say that care was taken, but part of the care was that it was prepared by getting there on time. Quiet atmosphere, and the bell calling us all there. So we started with an organ and all together and sang it. So I thought to myself how this appointing of a moment for all and sundry is, as it were, a claiming of time on earth. This is God's bit of time. And it shows that that's the way it should be done. God is author of time, and in his consecrated, he has rights over time. And St. Charles Borromeo indicates this when he teaches that if the priest is so generous with his time and attention that he neglects his own soul, then there's something wrong. And that's what's happening. That many priests are very generous, but they're weakening their interior life by being too thinly spread. And then old Nick can jump in at a weak moment because the other bit has been lacking. One doesn't drop one's best friend for a girlfriend. It doesn't happen. The important thing is engagement, heart to heart, therefore quality time. And these moments of the divine office and mental prayer and the rosary are divine appointments. We can't jettison them just like that and expect to be fruitful in the ministry that we're in charge of. So I wrote this way back in Rome in 1994, 95, whatever it was. A button that is pushed and pushed again, and yet again, where moments bid all halt upon this line. A little pain that blasts the tranquil ear, where thoughts are hid, 'neath pillows and 'neath tomes and papers dense, with meaning and with gleaning of much weight, that must needs enter in, a pulling thence of all, in gentle pressure, never late. This is my thumb's small duty. This is all I have to think to do. Yet think I must, for though a little thing be this my call, it is enough that all one man entrust with duty that moves all, for one to be fidèle, unchanged fidelity.
Alleluia.